Hey everyone, we are live with day 3 of Meditation Magazine's Peace Summit. So we should be live on YouTube and Facebook now. I see a couple of eyeballs. Just put a comment. Let me know if you can see and hear us well. Let me know if you can see and hear this stream. Yeah, this way we know that it is working. I want to just quickly introduce my co-host for today. This is Bob Tenbarge. Oh, hey, Lori. Thank you for letting us know. So,
Hi,
Bob
Kevin.
Tenbarge. Hey, Bob. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for inviting me to be a part of this today.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. So, I just wanted to let the audience know Bob is one of the earliest graduates of Meditation University's meditation teacher training program, and he has been teaching meditation in prisons in his area in Indiana. Indiana, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been teaching meditation in the prisons, but after having started in the prisons, then he was invited to also teach meditation to the prosecutor's office and also the drug rehabilitation centers. So basically, he's now working with the entire chain from prosecutors to rehabilitators to prisoners and bringing peace in that local conflict in his area in Indiana. So we're going to be talking about that after we watch this very, very powerful interview with Ali Abu Awwad and Einat Gerlitz. Ali Abu Awwad is a powerful proponent of peace in the Palestinian territories. He is a nonviolence activist who has started an organization called Taghyeer, which means change in Arabic, which advocates for nonviolent resistance in the Palestinian conflict and the Palestinian struggle for independence, for freedom, and for to end the occupation. This can be a very, very powerful approach, as we have seen from people like Gandhi and Martin Luther King. And I very much hope that he is successful in his efforts. He is going to be joined halfway through the conversation by Einat Gerlitz, who is a conscientious objector that decided to refuse to join the Israeli military, the IDF, and because of her refusal was imprisoned. So the two of them will be talking together about what we can do to get toward peace in the Middle East. So I'm excited to start that video in a moment. We're going to start that at 11:30, which is in about 3 minutes. Bob, did you have anything that you want to say about this, or any thoughts to start us out?
The thoughts that come to mind for me is it's just nice to hear other people talk about how to solve the problems of violence and aggression. And even though we're on a smaller scale where I live, it's still good to hear these new ideas and new ways of thinking. Because if you live in the same culture your whole life, like you learn these ways of thinking, like you learn these judgments, and then you always learn to judge people. But when you meet all these people from all around the world, you start to see that they're more like us than we thought they were.
Mm.
And it just brings us closer together, I think. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's realized when we meet others and we see the perspectives of others and we can see through the eyes and step into their shoes of others, that allows us to see the humanity, the shared humanity. And I think that is what is sorely lacking in a lot of the conflicts in the world. Yesterday, we spoke with combatants for peace, and the day before that, on Wednesday, we spoke with Israeli and Palestinian mothers who had lost children in the conflict, among other people as well. But those two conversations stick out in my mind because each time we talk to Israeli and Palestinian people, they always talk about how they never really met each other. They didn't know each other. They never, the Israelis didn't know Palestinian civilians and vice versa. And the dehumanization that we see on a large scale right now comes from that simple, small scale, local phenomenon of separation, where we are separated from the people around us, and when we don't know them, and when we fear what we don't know, there's the fear of the unknown, and we make these things in our minds, these concepts, these ideas, that these people are bad. But when we actually get to know them, we realize that we're all one species, we're all one humanity, we're all one consciousness. And through meditation, we realize that we're all one universe. We're all one being. So even without the formal practice of meditation, just by meeting people, just by hearing people and understanding and listening, we can really understand that we are all humans, and that we all have hopes and dreams. We all want the best for ourselves and our people, and for everyone. We want love and peace. And so I'm excited now to share this with you. This is one of the most powerful interviews that I've done, and I think that you're going to find it to be enlightening. This Ali, Abu Awwad, and Einat Gerlitz coming up right now. People take one side or the other and fight for that side, or should people take the side of peace and humanity? Which of those is more likely to lead toward peace?
It's one of the biggest problems right now that people abroad are very invested in. That's amazing, and we need you guys, but people are choosing to see the reality very black and white, and that's very dangerous. We need people on the pro-human rights side. And I think that it's important to say that looking at both sides is not necessarily seeing them as equal, and it doesn't erase all the blame and the responsibility. I think that looking at both sides is seeing where each side is at fault, what are the problems, seeing the bigger picture of what led to this point. And I think that's where people should be on the pro-human rights side and amplify the nonviolent voices. That's what we need right now.
Be pro-solution. It's easy to be pro-Israel or pro-Palestine, but be pro-solution. For people to be pro-solution, we activists on the ground, we needed to make it very clear. Our message to the international community: we are not ready to pay more prices of our identity, existence, or security because of the gap that people in the diaspora are creating by taking sides. And we need the international community commitment to solution, especially Jews and Muslims around the world, not in our name. Hate is not in our name. Divide is not in our name. Just imagine, in Washington, D.C., 1 million Jews and Muslims marching the streets to put a pressure in Biden to be pro-solution more than being pro-those or pro-that. This can work, because when Jews stand up for Palestinian, the State Department will listen. When Muslims stand up for Jews, they will listen much better than we speak for ourselves.
We're here today with Ali Abu Awwad. He's one of the most, if not the most prominent Palestinian nonviolence activists currently living in the West Bank, founder of Taghyeer, which means change, which is an organization and a movement for the nonviolent resolution of the Israel-Palestine conflict based on Gandhian principles. And I believe that you were relatively influenced by Gandhi. Is that right, Ali?
Yes, absolutely.
What's your philosophy on nonviolence, and where did it come from?
Well, nonviolence for me is the celebration of my existence and my people existence. And in general, it's the art of our humanity as human being. And it gives the taste and the meaning of our humanity, because everyone is a human being. But I'm not sure that everyone is acting as a human being. Being a nonviolence person is to identify with our humanity more than anything else, which is the highest value of our existence in this planet and in this short life. What gives me a taste to wake up in the morning every day, that I know that I could be the prisoners of my victimizer, or I can be the free soul that will achieve my goal in my life. And even if I don't achieve this goal of independence, freedom, and security for all the people of this land, it's the way that I choose to spend it.
Yeah, thank you. That's a beautiful statement of the personal and spiritual aspect of nonviolence. Do you feel there's also an effectiveness aspect to the philosophy of nonviolence, meaning that you feel it's more effective than the tactic of using violence to achieve political goals?
Definitely, especially in our conflict, considering the complexity and the background and the narrative of both sides, then you realize it's just by nonviolence, and you don't have to be a peacemaker to realize that. I mean, we are so intertwined, both people with different identities in this only land where we both belong, and no one is gonna go anywhere. Even worse than that, people will fight until the last drop of blood, because this is the only place where we can thrive and exist. So yeah, for me, having said that, means that we don't need like to be like big political leaders to realize the political fact that this conflict cannot be solved by violence. And by the way, many conflicts can be solved by violence and by militant actions, but there will be nothing to live for. I mean, the destroy and the damage that can be created, it will need tens, if not hundreds of years to heal that. And what is winning here? I don't want a freedom to be built on hundreds of Jewish graves. And I don't want Jewish security to be built on my dignity and freedom. This is a fact that manage all of my life and my thoughts and my philosophy and even my movement.
I tend to agree. I think that violence just breeds more violence, and that the only way out of this kind of conflict is nonviolence. I wonder how you came to this realization and what your story is since you were a kid. I remember hearing that you had originally participated in violent protests as a kid, and maybe in the first Intifada, and then you were imprisoned. I'd like to hear more about your story and the evolution.
I was born as a refugee in the West Bank after my family were thrown out of our town, Kibeba, which is in Israel today. Was born to a very political mother. My mother used to be one of the leaders of PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization, and I participated in the first Intifada actually not because of politics. I saw the humiliation of my mother in front of my eyes when I was a child. She was arrested for several times by the Israeli army and security forces. And it didn't take me a minute to participate. In 1987, I started throwing stones on Israeli soldiers. And I have never considered this as a violence act, even though, I mean, throwing a stone at a human being can kill him, but throwing a stone in a 60 Merkava ton, like, that's insane. It was more my scream to be free, my scream against injustices, and my scream for my legitimate rights as a human being to live where my rights are in harmony of my life. And this is my relation to the conflict, and I cannot go for details because if I do so, it will need like days to explain why Palestinian kids throw themselves on the street facing their death by throwing rocks and on very armed, trained soldiers. But on the other hand, there was something inside me seeking for a dignified role to practice my political identity as a Palestinian, which I didn't see any platform work of it. So I just throw myself in the conflict. I was arrested with my mother. I face a very hard torture, humiliation by the security officers, as well as my mother. And they put me for years in the Israeli prison because I refused to give evidence against my mother. And actually, going to prison for me was like shocking. Especially, they gave me 10 years to prison as a matter of revenge because I refused to give evidence. I was just 17 years old. I always wanted to travel, to study, to have a normal conditions. I have never thought to kill a human being or to hurt a human being. And then I was broken, totally broken. I lost everything, lost future, lost dignified conditions. And the meaning of my existence, I lost it by being in prison. And I lost my study. I wanted to study, and I had an insane Palestinian dream that time to become a pilot. And you know, Palestinians couldn't be pilots. I mean, we have no passport, we have no recognition, and we even consider as terrorist or dangerous by many countries around the world. Anyway, I went to prison with my broken heart and dreams. And I found out that I was going to one of the best universities that you can imagine. Because Palestinian political prisoners has turned the prison to one of the best universities, honestly. You have to study, prisoners will examine you, you have to read books, learn languages. My English, most of it came from there. My Hebrew came from there. And, you know, month after month, I become so busy with the system to the level that when I used to tell my friends outside that I'm sorry for not being in touch because I'm so busy, they couldn't understand what the hell I'm talking about. And that was my real word that educate me just to become a better human being. And month after month, I wanted to visit my mother in her other prison, where Israel always refused, which was illegal even by the Israeli law. Then we decided to go for a hunger strike to see each other. A hunger strike of 17 days of starvation. And by the end of it, we managed to get Israel to agree that we will meet. I met her for 45 minutes, and all of this pain has just disappeared. And then I came back to my prison very confused, very conflicted, because I thought that what has been taken by force should be achieved back by force. Until that minute, I realized that with all of my right cause and right beliefs of my legal rights, I was blind to the rightest weapon that I have never used, which was my humanity. You know, in hunger strike, you don't harm anyone. You just harm yourself. But the goal is not to suicide. The goal and the deepest message in that you are telling your jailer, you're telling your oppressor that whatever you're gonna do, I'm gonna embarrass you among your own humanity because I'm not gonna do the same what you do to me. And you become the reflection of him, like you become a mirror of his humanity. I always said that in nonviolence, if you think that our humanity is our weapon, you're doing a big mistake. It's our enemy's humanity in nonviolence, but you have to be able to bring it out where your rights are not argumental anymore by him. So I started learning nonviolence in prison, and then I was released by Oslo Peace Initiative. And this process of having hope really has failed for many reasons. Until 2000, when we still could see the occupation is going on and on with no hope. The second intifada started in 2000, where I have decided not to take realistic part because it didn't speak about me. But on the other hand, I couldn't have also a normal conditions So I was stuck until one day I was badly wounded by an Israeli settler near Hebron, evacuated to Saudi Arabia for medical treatment, and learning that my brother Yusuf, 31 years old, was trying to come back home, were stopped by a group of Israeli soldiers and very violently murdered with no reason. At that minute, I faced the biggest exam of my life. Am I truthful to my beliefs of nonviolence, or shall I just give up everything and take revenge? And especially, revenge was the priority because, these people came, occupy my land, turn us to their victims, to be their victims. And I have all the right on earth to take revenge for many reasons, not just for my loss. But on the other hand, I'm still me. I'm still a human being. I'm not a murderer. And how do I do with that? How can I wake up in the morning? For what? So I was struggling between both of these values of life, humanity, and revenge. Until one day, my mother actually hosted a group of Israeli bereaved families, people who have lost someone in the conflict in 2002. And for me, that was the first time, and believe me when I say that, I sit in my home with Jewish people and I saw a Jewish person crying. I couldn't imagine even that Jews has fears, tears, or feelings until that minute. And then all what I have been struggling with, because I wanted to feed this monster inside me by labeling the other of not being human beings. But that minute, this bereavement has brought us together to the level that I realized that we're sharing the same humanity. Yes, we're not sharing the same life conditions. Even politically, our relation is unequal at all. But we are, by the end of the day, equal by what we are sharing under the ground. And I realized, actually, because of that, and because we are not able to share what is on the ground, we are just sharing what we have underground, which is the bodies of our beloved ones. I have decided to do everything possible for both sides to be able to share what is on the ground.
Wow, thank you. Part of what you were mentioning at the beginning of your story as a young Palestinian kid throwing rocks, you mentioned that you can't really go into the details of why Palestinian kids throw rocks because it's very deep. But I think it is important for people to understand, and for us to understand as peace activists also, what is driving violence on both sides. And one thing that I've seen, I have relatives in Israel as an example, and I know how they think and what they think. And a lot of people on the Israeli side believe that the violence is mainly because of Islamic fundamentalism, where people believe that that they should conquer the land for Islam. But I know that as from all the Palestinian people I've talked to, that's not what it's about. It's about, this was our land and it was taken from us and we're now under occupation and oppressive conditions. Do you feel that both of these are factors in the violence, that the kids that are throwing rocks as an example, on the Palestinian side, or do you feel it's one or the other?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. I think when people have life where they're all of their conditions is just miserable, and when I say miserable, you live in a house that doesn't have water, while people on the other side have swimming pools. It takes you 3-4 hours to reach your school. Just as a child, you see your mother get beaten in front of your eyes, or your brother get killed by the army, by the extreme settlers, and you experience an existence with no no future. You cannot even imagine a normal future because your world is about just humiliation, injustices. Then you lose your fear to die. When people lose fear to die because they lost their meaning of existence, life has no meaning anymore, especially for kids who grab a knife and go to stab soldiers, and they know in advance that most of them will get killed before even touch the soldier. They know that. But they have lost their fear to die. This fuel violence because, and they don't identify with it. They have not been born. They were not born for this. They born to live normally like any human being. So that's number one. Number two, when you belong to a nation that paid prices of their existence for another nation to exist on the same land, and you compromise, and this is what happened when we in Oslo recognized Israel, but we didn't recognize the occupation. And when the occupation go on, and then we lose our hope of any peace possible with Israelis, then violence become the language and the response. Number three, the Jewish fear itself. We live with the Jewish fear. We face this fear every day, and we pay the price of Jewish fear. Actually, the Jewish fear has become our biggest enemy. It's not the Jews themselves. It's their fear that has been implemented in politics by someone like Netanyahu. He's a manager of Jewish fear. He's not a manager of Jewish future in this land. That's what I believe. Number four, when you lose your direction, that you don't have in your society any platform that will adopt you and raise you in normal conditions to be a better person for your future, and you have a failure of your own political leadership with corruption, with misleading, with all of that, then violence becomes the answer. And finally, when the international community, big part or powerful parts of it, keep investing in this conflict, where Jews and Arabs are paying the price of their blood and their future because of international politics, investing in hate, because this conflict is a good environment for outsiders to invest for their own politics, then violence is the answer. By the end of the day, for that and for many other reasons, look where we are. If violence was the answer, we would have been able to solve this conflict many years ago. And by the way, it's never about ideology. It's never about Islam or Judaism. I know that both religions were created by the same God. And I know that there is no religion on earth support killing of innocent people, but there are politicians who use religion to justify their act of violence and militant and humiliation against others. On the other hand, to be an extremist, I'm not sure you need a specific ideology. I'm not sure even you need, if you live such conditions like my conditions, I'm not sure you need a specific curriculum to hate. It does make the job for you, even without a religion, without an ideology. And finally, I know that this conflict has religious roots, but it's not a religious conflict. So we need those leaders and those religious leaders to be part of a political approach that will manage the solution in a political platform. And my proof to all of those who say we use Islam, we are fanatics, we are extremists, the constitution that we voted for after Oslo was a secular one. I have never considered my society as a religious society, but the culture is much deeper than religion itself. So before people judge and label you, they have to understand. And for people to understand, we have to be a just lawyer for a just case. We cannot be a bad lawyer for a just case, especially there is injustice in the international court.
Yeah, thank you so much for that answer, Ali. I'd like to admit now into the conversation Einat Gerlitz. Einat, I'm gonna click the admit button now. She's joining us from Israel. I just want to introduce Einat for a moment because she's joining us now from Israel. She is a conscientious objector from the Israeli army, the IDF. In Israel, conscientious objectors are called refusenicks, which means you're refusing to join the army for moral reasons. And I believe that in general, the refusenicks are put in jail by the Israeli government because they don't recognize conscientious objectors as a legitimate reason not to join the army. So, Einat, is that about right? And how were you put in jail? And if so, for how long?
Yeah, that's true. I was imprisoned for 87 days in total. I refused in September 4th, 2022. But basically, when I refused, I had no idea if I'm going to go in for 2 years or for 2 weeks. The law doesn't say for how much time you're going to sit. So I was sentenced 4 different times in a total of 87 days. But now I have a friend, Taghyeer, who's sitting, he's going to almost finish 105 days, and there's still no hope for an exemption. So it really differs.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like they're getting more intense since the war started. So, not just to catch you up, we were talking about nonviolence. I know that's a big part of your own philosophy. So I want to ask you some questions about that as well, and start talking between all three of us about maybe ways that we can move toward peace. The conversation I was just having with Ali was about how many Israelis believe that the source of the violence from the Palestinian side is because of radical Islam, jihad, and things like that. But Ali was explaining that actually, in reality, a lot of the violence is coming, or most, or if not all of the violence is coming because of the oppressive occupation and the oppression that the Palestinians have had to go through over the past 80 years or so. So, Einat, is that recognized in the Israeli side near you? Do people think where you are that the Palestinian violence is mainly because of radical Islam and jihad, or do they recognize that it's because of the occupation and the oppression?
Because like it's seen as because of the radicalization and the fundamental Islam, but like I'm in the nonviolent field. That's where I focus on.
Yeah. So I think personally that if Israelis, if it's true, and I think what Ali is saying is true, if it's true that the occupation is the source of the violence, I think, and if the Israelis realize that, then they would start to realize that maybe if we actually stop doing, building walls and occupying and doing all this intense security stuff, that the violence can stop on that side, and then we can move toward peace. So I'm happy that Ali has explained that so clearly, that it's really mainly that the violence is chiefly coming from the occupation and from the oppression. So do you think, Einat, do you think that that's something that can be communicated to the Israeli people in a way that they would understand and hopefully be able to move away from the oppressive security measures?
I don't think that you can say that all the violence is justified as because the Palestinians are under oppression. I think it's one of the main reasons.
I just wanted to pop in for a moment for the viewers to just note that when I think Einat joined halfway into the conversation, she might have thought that we were saying that the violence was justified because of the oppression. But what we were trying to do, definitely not to justify or condone any violence, but just to understand the roots of the violence. Because if we understand the roots of the violence, then we can try to remove them. We can try to uproot the causes of the violence if we can understand them. So just wanted to make that clarification.
It's not the only one. I believe in nonviolence, and I think that the hope is going to come from there. And I think like violence is always problematic and never brings a solution as how I see it. And of course, that a nation that's under occupation for 75 years and under a siege is under a lot of pressures, and that's one of the reasons, but not the only reason for violence. I think there are many reasons. Some of them come from fundamentalism in religion, just as in the Israeli society that we have crazy, scary fundamentalistics on the right that are using Judaism as a justification for violence. So I think we can see that in many different religions. So like as everything in life, there's many reasons. Yeah, but I really do believe that the only way to stop this circle of violence, a circle of blood, is working together and being in solidarity one like with each other and continuing the nonviolence resistance even at the hardest times. I think that staying humane and looking to the injustices in the eye is the most important thing that we can do, and to raise up our voices and not to let the violent and then revenge motivated mainstream like take the whole stage. So I'm trying from where I am as part of the Misarvot network, the Refuses network, and also in activities in the South Chabon Hills with the community there, that there's a strong nonviolent resistance going on for the past 2 decades at least, and I really believe that that's where the solution is going to come from.
Yeah, thank you. I want to go to Ali for a moment and ask, Einat was mentioning that she thinks that the violence stems from multiple causes on both sides and in every conflict. And I think it's important for us to understand, is this true is there some of it that comes from jihadist fundamentalism and some of it that comes from the occupation and the oppression? Because it's good for us to understand the truth of the matter so that we can hopefully find solutions that can ensure security for everybody as we move into the peace process and move into hopefully lasting peace. So the question is, do you think that it's true that there are multiple factors to the violence besides the occupation and the oppression? Do you think it's also there is jihadist fundamentalism driving some of the violence?
Well, as I told you, violence has never been an identity for people here, neither for Palestinian, also for Jewish people. I think the mentality and the psyche of both people has more humanity than violence. And believe me, after 23 years of engagement with so many Israelis and Jewish people around the world, with so many Muslims, I realized that this is a political conflict that religion has been invested in a bad way. And religious people, whether religious leaders become politicians, and this is where God gets upset, or politicians speaking by the name of religion. And there is so much investment in the political conflict in religious values. When you mention Jerusalem, the problem of Jerusalem is not a religious problem. It's a political problem. But it has religious values that has been like preventing us to reach a political management. On the other hand, in every religion, you can find 100 reasons to kill, and you can find 1,000 reasons to reconcile. It's up to you. It's up to the people. Because when you decide to kill someone, you don't justify it. You don't need God to justify that, because you are ready. There are many other Muslims and Muslim countries. They're not fanatics. Look at Emirates today. They are normalizing the relation, and they did normalize with Israel. It's a fake normalization, right? I mean, it's just between politicians, but the people are not there. Look at Qatar, Kuwait, Indonesia, all of these Islamic countries. They're not fanatics, but it's up to the system and it's up to the world how to view that. For me as a Muslim, I'm telling you, killing innocent people doesn't represent my case. My case is more moral and just than to be represented in a fanatical way. On the other hand, I believe that Einat and many, many others exist. I believe in the humanity of my enemies before the humanity of my own people. That's why the Palestinian nonviolence approach can work and can achieve my rights more than any violence. by the end of the day, any management of this conflict, when our politician hopefully will get enough pressure on them to sit on the table and take hard decisions, they don't need God to be there. They don't even will not sign the agreement in the name of God or in the name of Judaism or Islam. They will sign a political agreement. And this is the society where I live, and I live with Christian, I live with Jews, and I know that there is no justification for killing. But sometimes we are stuck, as I told you, we're stuck with the Jewish fear, with the Jewish lack of trust, with the Jewish and Israeli justification of the occupation under security. That's why in my manifesto, I raised two important questions. Questions among Palestinians and questions to the Israeli Jewish people. I tell Palestinians, do you recognize the legitimate Jewish identity on this land? Because we can start from there to build any future agreement. On the other hand, I ask Israelis, are you occupying people for security or are you occupying land for ideology? Because if it's for security, then it's me and your responsibility. If it's about ideology, this is to argue with God, right? It means that it's unsolved. We cannot solve it. So Israelis today has to decide. This occupation is about security. It has never promoted security. Palestinian has to decide, are we able to recognize the Jewish belonging to this land where we can build a lasting peace? Because peace for me is not about borders. You know, the best thing that this horrible act of right-wings and right-wing government and violence, that they brought on the table something that we were hiding. They brought identity. Today, we need to negotiate and discuss identity more than behaviors. Occupation is behavior. We should not be denying each other identities, but we should take responsibility for each side behavior. I'm ready to take responsibility for my people violent, but I need a partner who will take responsibility about the occupation, and not by good intentions, not by flying to to Greece for a nice peace conference and 5-star hotel. I'm done with that. We need a strategic thinking with a massive action that will bring our identities to the harmony of life. So peace for me is a place where these two legitimate identities will fit in a political design that no one has to pay the price of his security, dignity, freedom, or nationality. This is peace for me. Any politician will design that, he will be my hero. But you know what? There will be no politician to do that as long as we still, the game of blame, the competition of suffering, who suffers more, we are all victims. Let's agree about that. We are all victims. And by the way, me and Einat are not the minority. We are the minority who represent the silent majority, because the majority are silent.
The violence is many times screaming louder, even though I think in most people's hearts they do believe in what we're speaking about. I completely agree with you, Ali. I think that the only way to start to move toward a solution is for all of us to start seeing our blames and where we're in fault, and to take responsibility, and to see the other side's pain. I think that's one of the biggest problems here, that we grow up very separated. We don't know enough of each other's history, and what we do know many times is very manipulated, and we're just not able to, when we grow up, to know each other's true culture and history and our pains. So the Israelis and the Palestinians, many people feel as if they're the only victims and the other side is completely to blame. And I think a lot of times it makes people be very closed-minded because that's what they grew up on. And I think that the biggest courage is to be open to hear different stories, and to hear about the complicated reality that maybe we were not told about when we're younger. But the real courage, I think, is to to look in those stories in the eye and to be open to hear them, and then to look for all the colors of what's happened and what is happening to all the people in this land. And that's the first step to move in order to move on to something better.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
people
you.
in general say there is no peace without justice.
For sure.
Actually, I don't believe in just solutions. I'm sorry. I believe in justice as a value. But I don't think that there is a just solution for this conflict. There is a fair solution. What I will add to what Einat said, there is no peace without truth. We have to be truthful to ourselves and to the other.
Yeah, and that's actually something I wanted to ask you both about. How, Ali, you were saying that we have to recognize and take responsibility for the problems that we bring to the table. And, you were saying I take responsibility for the violence on my side. And Einat, I've heard you speak before about, the responsibility of Israelis for, the occupation and the oppression of Palestinians.
For sure.
I've heard that in previous podcasts. But how do we, is that enough for just people like you and Einat and me and the peace activists that are really, like you said, the small minority of people that actually speak up for the large majority? Is that enough, or how large does the recognition and taking responsibility have to be to actually move toward real peace on the ground?
Let's talk Taghyeer. One, as a response to this recent reality, we need a ceasefire, but more than that, we need a cease conflict. A ceasefire that will be under an international political umbrella that will allow cease conflict as well. That's number one. An immediate aid for sure for everyone. We need a process to start releasing innocent people, prisoners, hostages, whatever you call them, in both sides. And this approach will guarantee and will fuel hope. We need fuel for hope. We have hope, but hope is destroyed. We need to fuel it by practical actions on the ground. Number four, we need a guarantor, an international guarantor, and an Arab guarantor to get engaged directly in this approach and give 3-5 years that will end by a recognition of two states by every party around the world and every country. Because we need both sides to take responsibility and to stop this competition, but they can, when you do it in a guarantor way, that it will end not with more settlement like Oslo and not with more suicide bombers, people will get back their hope. And this is the only approach that I see. And we need to get rid of the recent political leadership. Both of them are horrible. Both of them are corrupted. We don't have leaders, we have politicians. Because politicians are just managers of reality fueled by fear, anger, and hate. Leaders, they are managers of future, fueled by hope, responsibility, and humanity at the same time. And this is the difference between both sides. So we need all of that to be on the table with the biggest, most important thing, a massive pressure on political leadership on both sides to sit on the table and take hard decisions, because peace now is something really hard. It's not like any time before. But we have to realize
it's the most important right now.
Exactly. If we are not able to take the painful injection and to go to the surgery, this wound will be bleeding every year, every month, and every minute.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything. I think you said it wonderfully. And I really want to take this opportunity to speak out and to call to action to everyone who's watching us and who's listening to us, that we need you guys. We're doing as much as we can from here, but a lot of the pressure either to continue the war, to stop the war, will come from abroad. And we need the activists abroad to pressure their governments to put the people as first of all, put the people in front of their eyes, the Palestinian people and the Israeli people, and not the violence and not the Zionism. We need them to look for the people, to take care of aid, to take care of the hostages, to really pressure and move forward toward what Ali was talking about, a real, true political agreement, a sustainable one that's in the interest of the people and not the politicians. And we need the people that are going out on the streets and the ones who are still sitting at home with themselves. We need you guys to go out and to demand your decision makers wherever you are to stop this war, to let in aid, to bring back the hostages, and the most importantly, pressure them for leading a political agreement, because otherwise we're going to see another war like this in the close future. If we're not going to have a real agreement, just a dry ceasefire is not going to be enough.
Thank you both for those deep and powerful answers. And Einat, what you were just touching on international activists globally, like me here, I'm in the United States. Everybody is horrified by what we see in Gaza in October 7th. We're all horrified by the terrible violence, and we try to grasp onto things that can try to make it stop. And this has been not just this past, few months, it's been for decades that this has been going on. So what a lot of people here in the United States and abroad do is they choose one side or the other, and then they vociferously, aggressively go and protest specifically for that side and against the other side. I've seen this is the biggest way that people in around the world are relating to the conflict. People like me and spiritual people, meditation people, we try to see that everybody is human, and we try to see what's going on both sides and not just taking one side, and keeping our minds open and try to talk about how we can get to peace. But people like me and people that are, Brene Brown also recently made a post about peace, talking about both sides, and got very attacked from it by people on the left that were saying that she wasn't pro-Palestinian enough. And this type of thing happens on both sides. And so people that I don't want to say in the middle, but people who are really just pro-peace and pro-humanity are continuously sort of attacked on social media, whereas people that are one side or the other are just sort of fueling their own social media bubbles. So what do you both have to say about this? Should people take one side or the other and just really fight for that side, or should people take the side of peace and humanity? And which of those is more likely to lead toward peace?
I think you're bringing up a really important point, and I really feel like it's one of the biggest problems right now that people abroad are very invested in. That's amazing, and we need you guys, but people are choosing to see the reality very black and white, and that's very dangerous. We need people on the pro-human rights side. And I think that it's important to say that looking at both sides is not necessarily seeing them as equal, and it doesn't erase all the blame and the responsibility. I think that looking at both sides should mean, as I see it, is seeing where each side is at fault, what are the problems, seeing the bigger picture of also of how what led to this point, and saying that we do have two nations here that are not equal and were never equal. We have one that's the oppressor and one that's the oppressed, but also, of course, considering what happened on October 7th. And I think that's where people should be on the pro-human rights side and amplify the non-violent voices and the humane voices that are talking, first of all, about humanity and are talking about the urgency of a humane solution, not a militaristic one. That's what we need right now.
I just came back from Geneva Human Rights Film Festival. My message was so clear and direct. Be pro-solution. It's easy to be pro-Israel or pro-Palestine, but be pro-solution. For people to be pro-solution, we activists on the ground, we needed to make it very clear, because it's so confusing, as Einat said. And we're not ready. Our message to the international community, we are not ready to pay more prices of our identity, existence, or security because of the gap that people in the diaspora are creating by taking sides. Yes, we're not equal, but solution will bring us all equal. And if we will not be equal through solution, it's going to be our responsibility, not the other side's responsibility. It's up to us. Finally, we're not calling you to be part of hope. I'm not so much optimistic, but I'm a believer of what I'm doing. We're calling you to adopt it as an ideology, not as a tactic. Nonviolence cannot be nonviolence is like love. You cannot love one tactically. It doesn't work like this. It has to be more than even a strategy. It's a mentality. And we need the international community commitment to solution, especially Jews and Muslims around the world, not in our name. Hate is not in our name. Divide is not in our name. Just imagine, in Washington, D.C., 1 million Jews and Muslims marching the streets to put a pressure in Biden to be pro-solution more than being pro-those or pro-that. This can work, because when Jews stand up for Palestinian, the State Department will listen. When Muslims stand up for Jews, they will listen much better than we speak for ourselves.
Wow. Thank you, both of you. Thank you for those powerful answers. And Ali, I do see the hope in that, in imagining so many Jews and Palestinians or Jews and Muslims in general marching on Washington to be pro-solution. I hope that can happen soon, and I want to see what we can do to get there. But before going to that, I want to finish my question on choosing sides, because this is something that when I respond in the way that you both have, people often, there's this concept that people have that neutrality supports the oppressor. Have either of you heard this or thought about this? And what would you respond to that?
I've heard of this. I think that neutrality can be on the side of the oppressor. I think that we're not calling to neutrality. We are calling for people to be active. I think that neutrality can be dangerous. I think that what we're talking about, again, is the pro-human rights stance, the nonviolent stance that's not extremist, but also does see, like we talked about, it does see the problems and the faults and the pain. It recognizes the pain, it recognizes the inequality, but it strives for a solution for everyone and not just for one of the sides or something like that. So I think it's important to put the focus on that difference of being just like randomly neutral or being actively pro-human rights and actively recognize the pain and what needs to be done considering the power dynamics.
Big part of it is our fault as an activist, because we have never strategized our movement. There is so much within the peace movement itself. We're so divided over opinion and vision for solution. We are so divided over competition of resources. Who's better? I'm the good and these are the bad. There are tens of thousands non-profit and NGOs. Part of them runs by the best politicians for peace who are just the retired one. Just generals and politicians become Mandelas just after they retire, and they open these NGOs and they run for the USAID money and they hire the best stuff. They fly five-star and 5-class. Number 4, we are also able to argue just behaviors. We don't even want to recognize identities. I'm talking about those who are pro-solution. I think the answer is that to strategize, to have a strategic action, massive national plan in both sides. I just came back from a conference I told you in Switzerland. I can mention that. It is kind of confidential, but I can say 74 top leaders, politicians, security figures have just met to try to figure a strategy for both sides, where we will invite the international community to invest in a practical strategic plan for solution and not just sit with each other and have hummus and hugs. This is not the nonviolence that I advocate for. It's now serious. We have to create an alternative as a parallel to the alternative of violence, hate, militant extremism. We have to be to that level. Otherwise, it's going to be a waste of time.
Yeah, wow, that's very powerful. And, we only have a couple minutes. So I just want to ask you, did they come up with anything that you feel is feasible and hopeful to actually work, that you think will actually work or is likely to be implemented? And are you hopeful that this is going to work to bring peace? Ali?
This is going to be the nightmare that will create the dream.
But do you think that the strategies that the 74 leaders came up with at that conference that you're talking about in Switzerland, do you think that they came up with anything practical that can actually be done?
I misunderstood. Yes, we agreed about a charter. Hopefully, it will be published soon. I mean, I cannot allow myself to speak, but we have agreed about principles for the future that any peace agreement has to include. So these are very important principles to be decided. On the top of them is mutual recognition of identity and belonging to the same land.
Yeah, yeah, that's very, very powerful. And Einat, are you hopeful that that peace can come in our lifetimes? And are you hopeful for that? Do you believe that that's likely?
I wish. I wish. I really wish.
Yeah,
We
I
don't
wish.
hope for it, we work for it. Let us put
Yeah,
it
we're
this way.
working. We have no other choice. We're working for it, and hopefully it'll come in the near future.
Okay, I wish we had more time to talk, but I really appreciate both of your time. I know that you're doing great work and very important work in a really difficult area and under sometimes feeling like hopeless conditions, forging ahead and doing things that are putting you sometimes in danger, and being very courageous about it. And I really just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, both of you. Thank you for the work that you're doing. We need more people like you. And hopefully through this video and through the Meditation Magazine Peace issue that's coming out in the summer, we will help create more people like you, more peace activists, human rights activists that are on the side of peace and humanity rather than just taking one side or the other and just fighting it out. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate both of you. And we're back. It's Kevin Ellerton and Bob Tenbarge from Meditation Magazine, Meditation University. And we've just watched this beautiful and powerful interview with Ali Abu Awwad, Palestinian nonviolence activist, and Einat Gerlitz, conscientious objector in Israel. And to me, it was one of the more affecting and powerful interviews that I've done in the past couple of weeks for the Peace Summit and the Peace Issue. I find Ali to be a very inspiring figure, particularly Einat as well. But Ali is I think really making a difference there in the West Bank and in the Palestinian society. I hope that he is able to succeed in really getting the nonviolence movement really to scale up and to really hopefully find a solution. What were your thoughts, Bob, while you were watching the video? Did you get to really have some connection to these inspiring figures?
What I heard and what I realized is just hearing his story of growing up and not having any hope or anything, where I've been so lucky to have all kinds of hope in my life, you know. So how like different like people are in the world just because of where they live at can really change your life or change your destiny. Can change the way things come to you. And we're like sheltered so much that until you hear their stories that you don't really know what's going on. Like you see it on the news and it goes by in a couple minutes, but until you sit down and listen to somebody and really take some time is when you start to figure it out. Like if you just see it on the news here and there, then you're likely to take a side because you see the violence and you see people that are hurt and you feel sorry for people. So you choose a side. But when you sit down and listen to people that they don't even want to have the violence, but the politicians spread fear and spread everything. So I see how lucky I am to live in a place where I'm sort of sheltered from it. But then I got to learn at the same time to speak up because it's not happening to me, but it's happening to people. And I need to learn how to speak up and get the message out for nonviolence. Like even though I live in the middle of the country, state of Indiana, like nothing's going to happen to me probably ever. But I need to be that person to tell everybody what's going on and to share their story, you know?
Yeah, I think yesterday we had actually the first day of the Peace Summit on Wednesday, we had a conversation with an Israeli and Palestinian mothers who have lost children in the conflict. And one of the commenters was asking, how can we help? How can we help from here in the United States and Canada and places like that? And how can we try to resolve conflicts? And what the mothers were saying was, choosing sides, causing division doesn't help. But sharing humanity, sharing the stories of people, of real people, like letting people see the eyes of the mothers who have lost children in the conflict, the eyes of the former combatants that we talked to yesterday, who chose to take another path. Letting people see the eyes of Ali Abu Awwad, who lost his brother to senseless violence, choosing not to go the path of revenge, but to go the path of peace and nonviolence and reconciliation, and making that such a powerful mission in his life. When you see people like that and you see these real humans, then you lose that feeling that these people are statistics, that they're just numbers on a screen, and that they're actually realize that they're actually human beings. I think the best way, if people want, if you're watching this and you want to help, share this video, share Ali's story, share the videos from yesterday of the former combatants who have chosen a life of nonviolence and peace. Share the video of the mothers talking about their children that they've lost and how they've chosen to also forgive, not to forget, but to forgive and to find the strength that comes from reconciliation, moving on, advocating for peace, advocating for humanity and for unity, to realize that to get to peace, we need to stand together rather than standing against each other. We must stand with each other. We must join hands rather than use our hands to fight. I loved what Ali said, and this is continues to inspire me and continues to be one of my favorite lines from the Peace Summit. Just imagine 1 million Jews and Muslims marching together in the streets of Washington, D.C. to put pressure on Biden to be pro-solution more than pro this or pro that. This can work. Because when Jews speak up for Palestinians, the State Department will listen. And when Palestinians speak up for Jews, they'll listen much better than when we speak for ourselves. And I think that these words are so powerful that to find a solution, it's not about finding blame. It's the opposite. It's the opposite of pointing fingers, placing blame. Those things are, it's important to recognize within ourselves what we've done wrong. Within ourselves, we must recognize, oh, this is what I brought to this conflict, rather than pointing at the other, point at ourselves, say, this is what we've done wrong. And hopefully we have people on both sides doing the same thing. And if we have that self-recognition, that self-understanding, that's how we can get to forgiveness and peace and reconciliation and justice, eventually, hopefully, for all. And I hope that these voices are the ones that prevail in the end. I hope that these nonviolent voices are the ones that prevail. And I think as things become more and more intense, people realize that we need a different solution. We need something else. We can't keep going down the path of violence. And I believe that over time, it may take time and it may be a terrible, terrible period of time that we need to get through in order to get there, but we will get there eventually as individuals, as groups, as nationalities, and as a species. We will get there eventually. That's my hope.
And then something that he said too that really stuck with me. He said that politicians control, reality through fear and worry and anxiety, and leaders can change their reality through hope and peace. So that really hit me hard, just thinking about the upcoming voting elections and stuff like that. You know, politicians, all the negative ads, they're just spreading fear to keep us divided further still, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I think when I think of a leader, I don't think of necessarily someone who's sitting in an office. The politicians, you can have leaders in offices and politicians. If we can elect real great leaders as politicians, sometimes we can actually have great change and beautiful change. It's unfortunately that's not usually what happens, not often what happens. Sometimes it's the people that are divisive that catch more attention and they become the politicians. We call them leaders, but really, like I really think that distinction that Ali made is great. Politicians are managers of fear, while leaders are the managers of the future. And I think that really makes a lot of sense. Just if you think about the word lead, like just to lead, where the earliest leaders, like the fundamental what that means to lead, people in tribes thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago, who said, "Oh, you know what? Like, there's no more food in this area. We need to go somewhere else. We need to go to another land, and like, let's go." And they would stand up and they would get people together, and then they would lead them to a better future. Literally, like leading them, walking. I think that that's where leadership sort of started in our species. It started in those people that literally stood up and led their people to a better future, or at least toward a hopefully a better future. Sometimes it would work out and sometimes it wouldn't. But the politicians, like Ali was saying, is it can be, aside from leadership, aside from actually trying to lead toward a better future, it can just be focused on things that they dislike in the present, just being angry and reacting rather than acting proactively, acting reactively in ways that just make things worse and create a worse future without really thinking about the future, just thinking about their emotions in the present moment. I think we need to have a view of both in order to have good leadership, is to understand the feelings of the present moment, but also to understand the need to walk toward a better future. Yeah. I thank you for bringing that up, Bob. I think that's an important point too. So I want to move into a conversation about some things that you've been doing, Bob, in your community to help to promote peace, to promote happiness. And I know that as a meditation teacher, that you started a lot of your teaching has started through the prison system, and that you're now also working with the prosecutor's offices. And I think that's such an interesting dynamic where you're working with people they are on two sides of a conflict. There's the law breakers, and then there's the law enforcers, essentially. And those two groups are in conflict, but you're working with both in the same community through meditation. And I just want to ask you about your experience with that. Maybe you can just talk a little bit about it, about your experience working with those two groups in your community that are sort of in conflict with each other. Have you found that to bring more peace between them in some way, and to bring peace within them and between them?
Yes, Kevin, and I'll tell you just a little bit of my story first, so it sort of ties into what's going on. But I hurt my back like really bad about 15 years ago, and I went to my family doctor, and I was prescribed pain pills, and I got hooked on pain pills really bad in my life. And it was through meditation and yoga that I was able to get off my pain pill addiction. So my goal was, because it probably saved my life, because I was taking so many pain pills, so many pills every day. It probably saved my life for sure. So my goal was to become a teacher so I could share this with other people. So I studied meditation and yoga, and then trying to find a place to teach it that wasn't a gym setting, that wasn't a physical fitness setting, is extremely hard to do here in the Midwest. But I was able to get into the prison, and I really thought that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I bring peace to people in prison. They're there because of trauma. They're there because they caused some kind of conflict. They robbed somebody, hurt somebody, assaulted somebody. So they're there because they caused the conflict. They're there. They caused the conflict on themselves, even by getting arrested and thrown in jail. And after teaching there for a while, I was asked to start to teach at a substance abuse treatment center. And that was really made me feel good, because that's where I came from. And I was asked to join the Substance Abuse Council of our county. And during one of those meetings, I led a meditation, and the prosecutor's office people were there. And they asked me to come now and teach them meditation. So it feels really good to bring peace to all sides of the conflict. The prisoners know that they've done wrong. They know they've made a mistake. But sometimes the price they pay may be too high. It might not be strict enough. The prosecutors, on the other hand, like, they've got to deal out this punishment, and they've got to talk in court about these people. They got to tell the jury like how bad these people are. So they're in conflict with these people, or it's like a fight, or it's like an enemy, and they're pitted like against each other. Like, they have lawyers trying to get less time. The prosecutors are trying to get more time. So it's really feels good to try to bring peace to both sides. I try to teach the same thing to both sides each week. I try to teach the exact same style of meditation, the same meditation, and hopefully that'll connect them to be more loving and compassionate. And it might help the prisoners see that they're getting fair justice. It might see the prosecutors see the prisoners in a different light, is what my hope is. And they can receive a better punishment or better treatment, or they might find counseling or something different than the punishment that they're currently getting, to bring peace to our community, to save money for our community, to get people back with their families again. It just snowballs into so many different things once there's a conflict, but just like anywhere in the world. Like we see it in the Middle East, or it started on like October 7th, and it escalated. It's never stopped. They keep moving in. They keep just blowing stuff up, destroying stuff. There's less places to stay. There's less food to eat. There's less supplies. So somehow both sides of like every conflict need to get together and stop the conflict and figure out a way to solve the conflict, just like all the speakers have said during this peace summit.
Wow. Yeah, that's a very powerful experience that you have there. And I appreciate what the work that you're doing in the world right now. Thank you for what you're doing. It's a beautiful thing. And I think that people around the country and around the world can learn from what you're doing in the prison system. I think that there's more room to grow here too. I wonder, could you bring, this might be dangerous or something, but maybe prisoners who are at least not dangerous, bring them somehow in an event together with prosecutors to find some like in a meditation event, to be able to bring some kind of humanity to each other. I don't know if that's something that you could do, or that's possible. It's just an idea that I just had when you were talking.
Like, I've never really thought about it, but that would be a good way for both people to see both sides.
Yeah.
And get to know each other a little bit more on a human level, not just in a courtroom setting or through like legal proceedings. They'd actually get to meet each other and sit down and talk and practice together and see that people are just the same, that people are equal. You know?
I think it would be a very powerful thing. I think you need to make sure that before you even suggest anything like that, that you have very strong connections with the people that you suggest it to, because it can be a very difficult conversation to have with people, to think about sitting down with someone that they see as sort of their enemy. But if you can maybe in the future, if you can guide it in that direction, I think that would be a really powerful thing. I feel like there is a lot that can be done along these lines, and it's go ahead.
Or the thing I hear from the prisoners, it's the judges, and that brings me back to thinking, like, judgmental, like we all have judgments on people. So that word judge, or the name judge, is just like the perfect thing. Like the guys say that if you get the wrong judge, like you're going to have a terrible sentence. If you get the right judge, it's easier. So just the people that judge you can make the difference in your life, and that just all stems back to how we judge people in real life, like we're our own judge. And then like we learn, or like we need to learn not to be the judge, but to be the solution.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the prisoners speak about the judges, how a judge can either make your life easier or make your life terrible,
Yeah. Yeah. Do
So
you
like,
do you ever think about working with the judges? That would be a really interesting idea, because I feel like they have a very strong impact on what ends up happening with the prisoners.
yeah, and that's something else I need to check into, man. You're bringing me up all kinds of good ideas to further the practice here,
Yeah. I hope that can be something that can actually develop, because I I can imagine working with the judges in a meditation capacity, starting out that way, and they can become a little bit more peaceful, a little bit more present, a little bit more open to the humanity of the people around them, and especially the ones that are the stricter judges, the more intense, punitive judges. If you can get them to open their hearts a little bit, it can be really helpful. And then over time, if you have prisoners, judges, prosecutors, substance abuse counselors all in the same meditation workshop together in like a big circle or something, I can imagine it really change the way that the judges start to dole out punishments differently. Instead of thinking about it as punishment, they might think about it as more as rehabilitation for people that are humans, rather than just punishing people that they don't see as fully human.
Yeah, that makes sense. In our yoga studio, like it's a nonprofit, and we tell people that if you can pay, fine. If you can't pay and you don't have money, like we have a money box if people don't have money, or we never know if they can pay. So we have people that come from substance abuse that practice with people that have regular jobs. And it's a motivation for both of them to help. And then it's also like a motivation because they see people that work and they see both sides of the story. So when you get people together from from different races and social status, and they see each other, they can see that they can reach these goals maybe, or they've got a chance of being a better person just because people care about them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think a lot of these things that we're talking about, we can intellectualize these ideas and think about these plans for how we can make things better, and we can take action to make things better. Sometimes the true peace and the true motivation toward peaceful, loving, kind action comes not from our thoughts and our minds, but from the feelings and the love that we have in our hearts. So, on that note, I would ask you to conclude today's Peace Summit, and actually conclude the Peace Summit for these 3 days with a meditation that maybe we'll be thinking about something in our minds, but we'll also be embodying it and bringing it into our consciousness in a deep way. So, do you want to lead us in a meditation, maybe a metta meditation, something to develop loving kindness within our hearts, within our minds and consciousness, to lead us out of this beautiful Peace Summit?
Yeah, they say that the remedy for violence and aggression is love and kindness. So we're going to do a meditation for love and kindness. So if you've been sitting here and you need to move around for a second and find your meditation seat, just take a couple moments here, maybe moving your shoulders or your head, and we'll begin to settle in here. You can find your palms on your legs, or you can let your palms rest inside your palms and touch your thumbs. If you're sitting up, your feet can be on the floor. We can take our gaze to the floor, or we can close our eyes if we're comfortable. We're going to slow our breath down. We're not going to count anything. You're going to breathe in. You're going to breathe out and maybe make your exhales a little bit longer. Continue to breathe here. This metta meditation is going to be a mantra meditation, and we're all sitting in different rooms. We're all going to have some different people. So I encourage you to either say their names in your mind or say their names out loud. Say the mantra out loud. Or the first person we're going to think of is ourselves. Take your focus, take your vision to your third eye and see yourself there, happy and healthy. And repeat these mantras after me. May I be safe wherever I may be. May I be happy and share in the happiness of others. May I be healthy. May I learn to see all beings as equal. May I practice peace and spread peace throughout the world. Now I want you to take your focus and see the person you truly love. Somebody you truly love right now. See them in your third eye. Seeing them happy and healthy, smiling at you. You're going to say their name. May this person I truly love be safe wherever they may be. May this person I love be happy and share in the happiness of others. May this person I love be healthy. May this person I love learn to see all beings as equal. And may this person I love practice peace and spread peace throughout the world. Now we're going to take our thoughts and our focus to who we call that neutral person in our life. It's somebody you may see every day or every now and then, who brings that positive effect in your life. They might be the person who serves your coffee, somebody in your office, somebody at work or play. You may or may not know their name, but see them in your third eye, happy and healthy, smiling at you. May this neutral person in my life be safe wherever they may be. May this neutral person in my life be happy and share in the joy and happiness of others. May this neutral person in my life be healthy. May this neutral person in my life see all beings as equals. And may this neutral person in my life practice peace and spread peace throughout the world. Now we're going to take our thoughts to who we're going to call that challenging person in our life. You might call them your enemy. You might even think it's somebody you hate. It could be that person that you just don't want to be in the same room with. You can't stand to hear their voice. It could be a real enemy. See them in your mind, happy and healthy. Say their name. May this challenging person in my life be safe wherever they may be. May this challenging person be happy and share in the happiness of others. May my challenging person be healthy. May my challenging person see all beings as equals. May my challenging person practice peace and spread peace throughout the world. Now we're going to take our attention to all the people in the world, like we do at the end of a metta meditation. But I really want you to focus on the people in the world in conflict. You might just see them on the news. You might know people there. Visualize them. Humanize them. Say their name. Identify them however you can. May all the people in conflict find safety wherever they may be. May all the people in conflict find happiness and share happiness with others. May all the people in conflict be healthy. May all the people in conflict see all beings as equal. May all beings in the world practice peace and share peace throughout the world. I want you to sit here for a few moments and think about all these different people. Think about all these different people. And how you can bring compassion to their life. Compassion isn't just feeling sorry for somebody. That's called pity. And we don't want to pity people. Compassion is when you actually find a way to help somebody in a situation. Our meditation practice is a great way to start. And then we can share this with others. We can share these videos from the Peace Summit to strengthen our message, to get people to talk about it, to get people to speak up through nonviolence and solve these situations in the world. We can start to make some small movements here. You can go through the routine you may have to bring yourself out of meditation and back into the present moment. Bring your hands together and bring your thumbs into your heart. I want to say peace 3 times, and I want to home with you here at the end. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. A deep inhale. Thank you, Kevin, for letting me be a part. Thanks, everybody, for meditating with me.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. That was a beautiful meditation, a beautiful metta meditation. And let me tell you, I like how you adapt your meditations to specific circumstances and specific times. And when you were talking about all the people in conflict learning to see all beings as equal, and all the people in conflict learning to spread peace, I realized that I felt it, I felt a very clear vision. I saw a very clear vision of how these conflicts can end. It really just comes down to us. It comes down to those who are here, the people that are in conflict, to be able to experience these things, to feel, and just to see everyone as equal, to spread peace in their lives and around them. And even before that, when you were talking about the the challenging person, when you started the meditation, when I was going through myself and my loved ones and things like that, for them to see everyone as equal and spread peace, it was a beautiful vision. It was a nice vision. It was I was thinking, wow, this is nice, this is beautiful. But then when we got to the challenging person, somebody that I had been in conflict with, in a serious conflict in Florida some time ago, and I realized that as I was seeing this person happy, I was seeing this person at peace and safe and smiling and healthy, I realized that this person would not have acted the way this conflict would not have developed in the way that it did, if this person was happy and healthy and smiling. And it was almost like I was seeing an enlightened version of this person, happy, healthy, smiling, but not just that, also seeing all beings as equal, also spreading peace in the world. And seeing this enlightened version of this person that I had been in conflict with, I realized that my part of the conflict, my fighting to make, to try to win, to try to make this, to my anger toward the person, my pushing back and trying to almost to hurt the person. I wasn't trying to hurt the person, but there was this wish to, to hurt the person in a certain way, in like just emotionally, even just to yell or to scream or to cause pain. But I saw it so viscerally, this vision of this person in an enlightened state, and realizing that the conflict is gone, and the true path to resolving the conflict is not to hurt the other person, just the opposite. The true path to resolving the conflict is to help the other person be truly happy, to be truly at peace, to be truly enlightened, to be truly an agent of peace, to be truly seeing everyone as equal. The more we can help those others, the people that we are in conflict with, to be happy, to be at peace, to be enlightened, that is the way out of conflict. That is the nonviolent path that Abu Awwad was advocating for a few minutes ago. That is the path that Gandhi advocated for. And I highly recommend Thich Nhat Hanh. I've been reading his books on peace. Peace is Every Step is a good one. Creating True Peace is another good one. And there's another really powerful one that I was reading, Being Peace, from Thich Nhat Hanh. He's always talking about that our conflicts are rooted in the suffering of the people that are in conflict with us. Conflicts are rooted in the people's suffering. And if the people were happy rather than suffering, that the conflicts would not develop, because happy people can make peaceful relationships with each other. People that are okay, that are safe, that are healthy, can make peaceful relationships with each other. And that is the way. That is the way out of war. That is the way out of conflict. That is the way of peace. not the way to peace, but the way of peace, because peace is the way. It's not just something that we're going toward. It is something that we act through. We are peace. And when we are peace, we bring peace into the world around us.
Or the thing, or the thing that like gets me during that meditation for the people in conflict, just think how hard it must be to even think about peace when you've lost your home, you've lost everything you had, you're starving, you don't have a roof over your head. Like those are the people that have the hard time probably thinking peace more so than us because they've lost everything. They're mad and angry. They're hopeless. So for them, probably to practice peace are like, that's the toughest group of people that I feel that have a hard time practicing peace. The ones that have lost everything, the ones that have no hope, you know? So that's where I feel I like emotional because I see those people on the news in the mud with nothing at all and try to teach them peace. Like they've lost everything. Like, why are they going to practice peace? They have nothing, you know, they have nothing. So when I think of those people, I feel like hopeless. I don't really know what I can do, but I want to do something, you know? So all I can do is draw the world's attention and get more and more people to speak up. And hopefully, like he said, that we can get 1 million people to march to Washington one day and tell them what's really going on and what our feelings really are. Like they never take our feelings into consideration. They tell us what's going to happen, you know?
Yeah, not just 1 million people, but 1 million people from opposite sides of conflicts joining hands to speak for each other, not just for ourselves. That I think is a really important thing, that we're not just self-centered and selfish about the way that we try to resolve the conflicts, trying to resolve it for ourselves, for our families, our people. It's natural to do that. It's a human nature. But we need to transcend our human nature to some extent. We being with it, feeling it, experiencing it, but at the same time rising above it in a realization that human nature sometimes leads to violence and that we can choose another path. If we are conscious about our feelings and our thoughts and our actions, we can choose a path of peace and nonviolence. And that is what I've really learned from this Peace Summit and all these interviews with these amazing people, the women who have lost children in the conflict in Palestine and in Israel, the ex-combatants that have come together for peace, the nonviolence activists, like Bob, you were saying, the people in the mud that have lost everything, you know, like how can they go toward peace? I highly recommend everyone who hasn't seen the interview on the first day with the Israeli and Palestinian mothers who have lost children in the conflict, go watch that video, because those are two people that by all rights should be seeking revenge and hatred and filled with hatred, and but their conversation showed me that even in those darkest depths there is the light of hope and humanity. There is the light of love that shines within all of us, and that light outshines the darkness of grief and hate and revenge. And you can see it in the journeys of those mothers and in the combatants that we interviewed yesterday as well. I think those are just, if you haven't watched them, watch them. Share those videos. You can also even watch them on. I watched one of them with my mother yesterday on the big TV, and I put on the conversation between the Israeli and Palestinian mothers. My family is Jewish. They don't get to see that very often. You don't see it on the news. You don't see it like featured in the mainstream media, unfortunately. But I could see the tears on my mother's face because she saw for the first time the humanity in someone that she may, you know, see as an enemy, but now realizes is a mother just like her. And that we all share the same pain, that we all share the same humanity and love for our children and for our loved ones. I think if more people can see those videos, and just please, just if you're watching this, just share these videos. The more that people can see them, that's where we make a difference. That's where we move toward peace. Yeah. I want to thank you, Bob, for being here today. I want to thank everyone who's watching, and anybody who's going to watch in the future. Feel free to share these videos. And I hope that we can all together make a difference, working together toward peace, toward a vision of a happier and more peaceful and healthier future for us all. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again for inviting me to be a part of it. And
thank you,
to
Bob.
everybody who watches the videos, thanks for practicing along with us today.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. I hope you have a great day, everybody who's watching. And Bob, see you later.